Hi again, everybody. I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com. This is another episode of Ask the Lawyer. So, a time of birth is supposed to be a time of joy for a family, but unfortunately, sometimes that joy can turn to sadness when a birth injury is involved. And today we're going to ask the lawyer about what your options are if that birth injury is preventable. And here to answer our questions is attorney Nancy Winkler of the Philadelphia-based law firm Eisenberg, Rothweiler, Winkler, Eisenberg, and Jeck. And Nancy, thank you for making some time to answer our questions today. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
So let's start with some basics. Obviously, most births are trouble-free, but sometimes things do go wrong. Do you have a feel like what percentage of birth injuries are actually preventable?
Well, that's very difficult to say, but there are certainly signs that you should look out for and things that you should be watchful about. If you have any bleeding, if you have any kind of discharge of amniotic fluid, of your water, those are things that you need to be very careful about and seek medical attention right away.
I wanted to ask you about a specific case. I'm sure you are familiar with this. You and your firm handled a case where you secured a $4.5 million settlement, a newborn who suffered permanent injuries when the mother's uterus ruptured during childbirth. Can you tell us a little bit about that case, what happened there, what the failures were that were involved?
Yes, certainly. I can tell you some of the information, although some of the information is kept confidential.
Right.
However, this is a very sad situation where the baby was born profoundly delayed and had significant problems and needed extensive medical care. This was all preventable. Her mother's uterus ruptured during the labor and delivery, and this again was preventable. There were signs on that, when someone goes into labor, they're hooked up to a monitor. There's fetal monitoring strips that are monitoring the baby's well-being as well as the mother's. And there were signs of a very serious problem that went undiagnosed for a period of time. And, when we're talking about the birth of a baby, minutes, seconds matter. And the baby should have been delivered earlier. And if the baby would have been delivered earlier, the baby would have been born healthy. There was nothing wrong with the baby other than the fact that there was an emergent situation which caused her to have what's called a hypoxic brain injury.
So I'd imagine in a case like this, and in this specific case, when that gets presented to you, you then have to, and your firm has to do a lot of investigation. Tell us a little bit about what you had to do to try and determine the facts of the case and get to some sort of resolution.
Absolutely, and you said quite correctly at the beginning, a birth of a baby is supposed to be the most joyous occasion. This was a young couple that went in and thought that everything would just be fine, and oftentimes there's a delay in doing a cesarean section, which is not necessarily something every woman has to undergo, but in an emergent situation, sometimes it calls for that. And when there is a delay, it can cause significant trouble. Some of the things that we have to do, we have to gather all of the medical records. We have to gather all of the fetal monitoring strips. That's key to be able to assess what was happening inside the mother at the time of labor and delivery, what was going on with the fetus. The monitoring strips tell us about the fetus's well-being while in utero. And those records are significant in piecing the puzzle together to determine if there was, in fact, some neglect that caused the harm to the baby.
And is there are there laws about what records need to be kept and how long they need to be kept and that sort of thing? Or are you working against the clock in those kind of situations?
Well, it's important to try and gather the records as promptly as possible. Although I've had many cases in which different types of records are maintained for a lengthy period of time, generally there's a 7-year window in which the records need to be maintained, but it depends state by state, and also the facility. Various facilities may keep records for a longer period of time. Sometimes it's very difficult. We have another case that involved a baby, and they came to us when she was 13 years old. That was, a feat in trying to get those medical records, but we dug and dug and dug, and we were able to do so.
So that kind of leads me to what my next question was going to be. Like in the first case we talked about, it was probably very immediately obvious that there was some sort of birth injury, but sometimes it could be not immediately recognized, correct?
That's true. That's true. And we've had numerous cases over the course of years in which it wasn't immediately recognizable. They knew that there was a difficult delivery. There were some emergent circumstances, but they didn't quite know the delay for the child did not manifest itself until sometime later, at which time the family sought counsel to determine whether there was in fact neglect that caused the harm to the baby. Those cases, it depends upon the delay. As I said, sometimes if it's a lengthy delay, it's very difficult to gather the records. And sometimes, depending upon what the nature of the neglect is, there could be a statute issue. So it is very important that if a family, the most wonderful day in the world turns to tragedy, and you have a child that might need care for the rest of their life, or the unspeakable, horrible situation where you lose a baby, it is best, if you want to try and find answers, to first of all, to speak with your doctors and try and find out what they say has happened. To gather the medical records if you're able to, and to seek counsel who can then help you to gather the medical records if you're unable to do so yourself.
I would imagine one of the challenges is trying to determine what is actually the cause of negligence, and what would have happened anyway. Or is a birth defect? Families probably shouldn't be trying to figure that out for themselves. That seems to me that's when you go to a professional to try and get some help figuring that out, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we employ medical experts to assist us. I've been doing this for many, many years, as my partners have. And, we have our own screening process in-house. And then if it meets that screening process, we send it out to medical experts. We have very fine medical experts from across the country at the finest medical institutions. And they review cases for us to determine whether there was, in fact, neglect that caused the harm.
What if a family thinks, they suspect something happened, something's just not right, but they think, I can't, you're talking about all these experts and the best experts in the country, that can't be, that's not inexpensive. What if they're thinking we can't afford to get somebody to help us with that? What would you say then?
Well, firms like mine that do this day in, day out, and only represent families that have had a catastrophic loss or injury, generally don't charge for their services unless there's a recovery. And in fact, my firm, we only take cases on a contingent fee basis, which means if I get a recovery for the family, either by way of settlement or verdict, then we charge a fee. Otherwise, we don't charge any fee. So we take a lot of risk on our cases. We're very careful in our screening process because it could cost, thousands of dollars to review a case. Beyond that, it's all of our time and the experts that we employ, their time, and the cost of the experts that we lay out. But the family does not incur any cost at all. And we hope that, we provide a service to the family in having closure for them by way of either telling them there is something to pursue or there isn't. The best day in the world for me is and we've had some cases where a family has met with me and it looked like the child was really going to go on and have the need for special services for the rest of their life. And then there's improvement, and it's something that we couldn't pursue because there's not enough damages. The child's done well. And that's a great day. That really is a great day when we can say that. But otherwise, when we represent families that have had a catastrophic loss, and we can pursue a case for them so that their child can have a better life and can get the medical care that he or she needs so greatly. It is also rewarding. Even though people have medical insurance, the needs of a child that has been devastatingly injured are quite significant, and medical insurance alone won't cover the cost of all of the special needs that a family might have.
Thank you. I think it's been some really helpful information, Nancy. Thank you so much for your time today.
Certainly.
That's going to do it for this episode of Ask the Lawyer. My guest has been Nancy Winkler, the Philadelphia-based firm of Eisenberg, Rothweiler, Winkler, Eisenberg, and Jeck. Please take a second and subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the button at the bottom of the screen. And if you want the best information about birth injuries, or you're ready to choose a lawyer that lawyers choose, please visit AskTheLawyers.com. I'm Rob Rosenthal for AskTheLawyers.com. Thanks for watching.